Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to round 5 of 8 of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. And today we head to the Netherlands and to the circuit Zandvoort. Definitely across the drivers, across their social media, you can tell that this will be one of the most challenging rounds of this seven-round online series, with, of course, our live final at the Tuning World Bodensee. So what about the circuit Zandvoort then? Well, in its current configuration, latest update in 1995, it's a 4.3 kilometer circuit with 13 official turns, although I'd say that's relatively debatable. We've seen a number of RaceRoom racing experience races across multiple different championships here. It's one of my personal favorites for its challenge. Well, who am I, you might be saying? Well, my name is James Kirk. I am joined by the lovely Wiesenmüller. And Rob, fair to say that as much as drivers have been looking forward to this challenge, there was slight disappointment. Sadly, we were expecting a balance patch for the field for this round. It didn't come in the end, and so that means we're stuck with the same sort of picture that we had last time out. Corvettes, Porsches, they dominate the field yet again, and so based on that, we are expecting the Porsches to do very nicely here indeed.
Hello everyone, hello James. Yes indeed, we were hoping for an update, didn't quite make it in time. So we are back with this epic battle here. 2 wins for Porsche this season, 2 wins for Corvette. Who's going to win this time? Is it maybe this man here, Lucas Buron? In the only Audi on the grid, maybe he's going to complete the surprise. After finishing second twice in the second division in the last 2 rounds, he's in a good form. It's the only Audi on the grid this time. He's trying to break the dominance of the Porsches and the Corvettes.
Of course, and by picking up 2 second positions in Server 2, he actually earned more points, I believe, in those 2 races than any of his finishes combined in Division 1, which seems crazy, but that's why there's a certain advantage, perhaps, to not just making it into Server 1. Of course, you want to be in Server 1, you get to be featured on stream, and you get the chance of the real big points. Of course, a reminder that it is, for first place, 100 points on the table. There is a lot on offer, and looking at our schedule here today, if you are new here, if you're regular here, you'll know the story. If you're new here, first of all, we have 15 minutes of qualifying to try and set yourself a best time to move your way further on up the grid as possible. It's going to be a relatively important night wager as well today. And then, of course, we have a 60-minute race featuring a mandatory pit stop in the middle. It's after 15 minutes and before the last 15 minutes. As for our calendar, a reminder that is the 8 rounds in total, 7 rounds of an online season to try and make your way inside the top 20 in the championship. Although there's a lot of wiggle room there, it's going to be 2 driver car teams. There you go. At the Tuning World Bodensee live final. So by getting into the top 20, you are confirming that you are going to be there. But of course, some drivers within the top 20 might choose to pair up with each other. It could open up to people even outside the championship coming in. It's a load of stuff that we don't have to worry about just yet. It is still round 5 of 8 of 7 in this online championship. And I guess, speaking of the championship, should we have a look at the standings as well, just to have a little idea about what's going on, and to remind you guys, we have a drop score system in this championship as well. That drop score has now come into effect with these standings. So, all that considered, Florian Hasse leads our championship on 265 points. Keithley, after taking both pole and the win last time out, is up on 255, and Ben Spunky rounding out the top 3 on 245. And even still, 35 points separates the top 6. Considering it's 100 points for a win, that is a pretty close gap indeed. But Florian Hasse, that's awesome to see, isn't it? A man who has not really won at this top level of e-racing, Rob, but his consistency has won out and has clearly put him in a very healthy position indeed.
Yes indeed, Florian Hasse just leads by 10 points, so and 10 points, that is exactly the gap between first and second in one of these races, so it's very close. Then also, of course, if you have a bad round, the drop score system comes into play. If you score a penalty, that penalty cannot be dropped, so you will always get minus points if you pick up a penalty. Lots of things to consider in this championship. we'll focus on that much more when we come to round 7. But now I think there's still a lot of drivers within a shot in the championship. And yeah, it's mostly important for them to have a good race here at Zandvoort at a very tricky circuit.
It's tight, it's twisty, and it requires a lot of concentration as well as a lot of setup. Looking at our driver list for today, a lot of the names there I am very sure that you will recognize. We believe have a new person in Philip Matzik, but so many of those names, Rob, they're recognizable. It speaks volumes of how strong the top of the GT Masters Esports Championship is. Julian Kunze this time topping pre-qualifying, and he comes into this in good form, doesn't he? He won the first 3-motion challenge race yesterday, and so he'll be in high hopes.
Yes, first win in a long time for Julian Kunze, so great to see him back on the top step of the podium. But yeah, top quality server. Once again, 30 drivers on the list. Don't have all of them on the server yet. We're missing Ben Spunky. Oh, Ben Spunky just arrived here, so he's here. Still missing a couple of drivers. Hopefully they will make it. And then we also have a top grid in server 2, for example, streamed on the YouTube channel of RRVGT if you want to watch that. So lots of racing there. For example, Johannes Weiss in P13 in the championship. Hasn't even made it into server 1 once in this season.
And well, let's take you on a little tour of Circuit Zandvoort then. So through turn 1 we go. Now they say on the track map that's not a corner. Debatable. This is officially turn 2 before we head into the hairpin of turn 3. You can see immediately on board how tight this track is. So if you want to perform an overtake, you're going to have to get your elbows out. Then through this sweeping section, through the fast left bend of turn 4, we get this real angled look at turn 5, and this is where a lot of drivers find themselves in peril. The elongated right-hander of turn 6, oh so easy to go too wide there if you come into there too hot. A much tighter turn 7, you've got to brake more for that than you desire. And this is probably going to be one of the more exciting overtaking zones on circuit, the right-hand hairpin of turn 8. It's then a swish to the right and a swish to the left as we head through another hairpin at turn 9. You'll see a lot of cutback opportunities there. Again, a chance for people to overtake. A short reprieve then as we go over the crest and down into the Audi S. Turn 10, super tight before the swish left once again. So many directional changes here at Circuit Zandvoort. On exit of turn 11, there's another brief straight before we're into turn 12. You won't see many overtakes into here despite the straight previously. And then it's the elongated turn 13 that ends our lap here. A great opportunity to get yourself in the slipstream for a potential look into turn 1. You'll see purple sectors illuminated at the bottom of Jack Keithley's screen. That means that he is the fastest on track at the moment. And it shows in the provisional pole time, a 1:35.1 is hot form indeed.
Yes, that's faster than the fastest time in pre-qualifying. Very impressive by Jack Keithley. And you could hear he even had to lift in the final corner. He can't take it flat out in the Porsche. Even more impressive that he can set these kinds of lap times here. And that might very well be the pole position time.
It really could be. What was pre-qualifying? I think Kunz's time was a 1:35.5, if I remember correctly.
It was a 3.
A 3, right. So even better than the pre-qualifying time. To be fair, we do kind of see this as a regular thing anyway. They like to sandbag our drivers, but that leaves a lot of excitement on the table for now. Can anyone reach the 1:34s perhaps? Maybe Julian Kunze is that man. Maybe he was sandbagging in pre-qualifying as well. As you said, Rob, just almost a year since his last victory, of course breaking that chain with a win in the 3-motion challenge yesterday. He's someone who's consistently been at the top, but apart from that victory in the EWTCR live event, he has struggled a bit to establish dominance, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been pretty much a long time where Julian Kunze has been around the top positions. He's been on the podium quite often. He's always been really fast. Still the driver with the most top performances on the leaderboard on RaceRoom. But he just hasn't found success in these races. Not as much as he hoped for. This season it was the same story at Red Bull Ring where he got beaten by Andrés Santos. Pretty much just made a guest start. Whoa, that was close. One of the Corvettes going straight into the gravel there. But yeah, great to see him back on a winning streak and certainly on the form. Maybe he can challenge Keithley here because we were not expecting the Porsche to be that quick. And it shows at the moment Keithley followed by 2 Corvettes. So, once again, the class of Jack Keithley puts him in front of all the other drivers.
As much as people complain about the balance of power, I mean, you said it yourself, there's been 2 wins for Porsche and 2 wins for Corvette in this field. And if we go down to server 2, that's nowhere near the case. And actually, we got a couple of fun facts to show to you guys today. And, well, yeah, BMW is the most successful brand in server 2. In fact, they got 3 victories. So, you know, it's not like all of these cars are completely unbalanced. You know, it's actually quite a fair field. And I think Zandvoort certainly, I mean, actually Kunz has just gone down to a 35.304, so he is showing signs of improvement. Perhaps the Porsche's got a small advantage on this track with all the corners and not many straights, but I don't know. I do get the feeling that pole time isn't totally insurmountable, although Keithley looking on for a pretty decent effort here, a purple Sector 1, so he seems to be finding a lot of time there. Let's see whether he can't better his Sector 3 time. He does, but unfortunately it was so bad a Sector 2. I say so bad a Sector 2, it wasn't that terrible, but he doesn't improve his provisional pole time, so he remains on that 35.146.
Whoa, just switched to Julian Zangaffinen, and he spins out there in the beginning of the 3rd sector. Very technical track to drive, quite difficult. Just wanted to feature him because the Zangaffinen twins, they're improving and improving. Arno Zangaffinen in P5 now. It's actually leading the leaderboard qualifier for the next round. So they're just getting better.
And it's a similar story to every other championship we've seen them in, where if they decide to stick at it full time, you can definitely see that their early performances aren't too great, and then they just grow into their own. To see Manuel Zangaffinen up in P5 now, it's a rapid growth of development. But I'm really happy to see it as well, because both of them, to be fair, featured quite well last time out in the Nürburgring. On board now with Julian Kunze.
Yeah, he just improved on his lap.
35.2, yeah. So he has broken his pre-qualifying time. He's joined, of course, we talked about Manuel Zangaffinen in P5. In between Kunze and Zangaffinen, you've got Florian Hasser, our championship leader, P3, and Moritz Lerner in P4. I do believe we know the identity of one of the drivers not joining us today, Cooper Brzezinski. And I do wonder whether that was because of exploits yesterday, where with Williams Esports, actually, he won a 12 Hours of Sebring event. But his teammate in that was Nikodem Wisniewski, who, as we speak, oh, what a segue, he's up to P5.
Yeah, nice job by Nikodem Wisniewski. A pretty bad season so far. Started off very well, but then in the first race at Oschersleben went for the wrong strategy. And then in the last race, in the second to last race, he collided with his teammate while being a lap down. Then in the last race, he disconnected. So not a lot of luck for Wisniewski. But P5, that's pretty decent. And you can see Ben Spunky, one of the other main protagonists in this championship, a little bit out of position in P8. Even more out of position though, that's Gergo Baldi in 12th and Martin Stefanko only in 15th.
Stefanko looked very off colour yesterday as well, didn't he, in the 3-motion challenge. Gergo Baldi, he's already put his excuses in on social media. He said, I'm not too happy with this track, and I haven't put in anywhere near as much practice as I should, so maybe we should be expecting an off-the-pace Gergo Baldi. To be fair, he always qualifies in the lower half of the top 10, or just outside it, so I don't think it's too much of a surprise to see him down there. But yeah, Martin Stefanko really out of position. Michael Reichel there up to P3 with a 135.278.
And that's a brilliant lap time.
It really is, but still not close enough to challenge Jack Keithley, still over a 10th away.
But still, for Michael Reichel, it's been a constant, you know, it's constantly improving throughout the season. Just getting better each round here. And P3, I think this is the best he's ever been in the qualifying session, so very impressive by him. Someone just wrote in the chat, Corvette Porsche Masters. Just gonna prove him wrong and show the car of Lucas Buron, P19. Probably hope for a little bit more, as especially on Zandvoort, the Audi is really quite competitive. But still good to see him showing the flags, showing the colors of Audi here in the championship.
And you know what? I'm going to say this much. I couldn't care less if it was an all Porsche field, as long as the racing's good. There, I said it. It's to me, I understand the frustration. You want to see all of the cars available being used, but until that balance of power patch comes in to effect, then this is what we've got, and quite frankly, the racing that we've got has been fabulous. Speaking of fabulous, here goes Jack Keithley once again, another purple Sector 1. This time, though, he set a purple Sector 2. I think we're going to see a new benchmark here.
And it's always interesting to watch Jack Keithley because the way he's driving this Porsche, it's just so clean. Never slides. He's never really late on the brakes. He just uses the track perfectly, and he angles his car perfectly as well. You can just see here a little lift, and then it goes right alongside the curve so his car doesn't get unsettled. That was a perfect final sector.
Lovely. 135.043. Still not a 34, but that has re-extended that gap to P2 up to over a 10th.
Yeah, brilliant performance by Keithley once again, and whenever he's been in the front here, he's won. Lights the flag.
Yep.
Let's see if Kunz or Rechel can really challenge him here early on in the race.
Yeah, looking for his third pole position of the season, Jack Keithley, and neither of our other pole sitters this season have decided to turn up, that being Kuba Brzezinski and Andre Santos. In terms of race winners, however, we still have Bence Bunky in the field. Jack Keithley with 2 wins. Of course, Santos, as you have mentioned, winning at the Red Bull Ring ahead of Julian Kunze. Bence Bunky doing a little bit better up to P5, deposing Moritz Lerner and Nikitin Wisniewski. The rest of the top 10 rounded out by Manuel Zengaffinen, Alexandre Vermont, and Julian Zengaffinen out into the top 10. Honzik outside of the top 10, along with Gogo Baldi, Martin Stefanko, Simone Puglizzi as well, actually doing quite well up there in P12. But what's this? A purple Sector 1 from Julian Kunze. Let's keep an eye on him. That's a little bit shaky out of turn 9 there. And up into the Audi S. I'm slightly worried about his second sector time, and that just about proves it, sadly.
Yes, little slide before already from Kunz, and then a big one over the grass. Loses all of the time. He will have one more shot, of course, on RaceRoom once the timer hits 0. Qualifying is over. So the lap that he starts now will be his final attempt. Ooh, very wide in the final corner as well.
He's timed this well. If he does have enough fuel on board, that's not going to be an improvement from his 135.224. Let's see whether he can improve this time around. He'll have slightly more worn tyres, however, so that job will be even harder. Jack Keithley is done. He is in the pits. He's not going to improve from that 35.043. Mikko Rechel is done. Manuel and Julian Zengaffinen both done. Everyone else out on circuit, they're looking to improve.
Julian Kunze makes his way through the Dutch dunes here. Lots of sand always on the track, very slidey. Not a lot of grip on this track. Lots of very fast corners.
It's a green Sector 1, that's not too bad. Can make something of it from here. Jaroslav Honzik has just jumped up into P6. That's an excellent effort, deposing Julian Zengaffinen out of the top 10. Rechel's done, Haas is done, Banki's done, Wisniewski done. Looks like only Moritz Lerner and Julian Kunze now, the only two that could possibly move up the order into the top 10. Or in the top 10, I should say, rather.
Once again, loses a lot of time in the second sector. I think this is it. I think Jack Keithley is going to take the pole position here. We should see the results coming in a moment. There they are. So Kunze can still finish his lap here. Let's see if he moves up, if he improves this time. But I don't think he can beat Keithley. So once again, pole position for the Englishman, Jack Keithley, Williams Esports. Very impressive job. In front of a lot of Corvettes. Lerner, the second best Porsche, is only in P7.
Yeah, Kunze, Rechel, Hasse, Banki. The remainder of your top 5. And so Williams Esports, wow, what a weekend they're having. And certainly if Jack Keithley is anything to go by in this championship, I think you already said it before, Rob. Both the pole positions he's taken, he's been able to convert them into race wins. He's just got to nail this start. It is hardly the longest run down to turn 1. If he's able to make it there unopposed, I think he's got a very good chance. A reminder of your championship standings. And with a win, Jack Keithley pretty much guaranteed, Rob, to take the lead of the championship.
Yes, Julian Kunze down in P6. And we've seen Hasse also strong in qualifying. Funky a little bit off, Stefanko quite far off. Let's see if we see a new championship leader after this round.
Of course, a reminder that really, this championship is for pride. The real prizes are won at a Tuning World Bodensee live final, of which, in order to get there, you need to be inside the top 20. So everyone just looking to secure their positions as we head to the grid. No warm-up lap. It is straight away looking at the lights, of which they illuminate above the drivers now. And here in Holland, we're racing. And you can immediately see a lot of drivers fanning out there. A lot of good starts in the mid-pack. But most crucially, up at the front, a good launch for Jack Keithley. I don't think that was his best of the season, certainly. But he's unopposed heading into turn 1. Through side by side goes Mikael Rekel and Florian Hasse there. As it looks like everyone's been able to get through unscathed as well. Who's this looking up the inside? It's Moritz Lerner, who's had a great launch already. Up into P6 from a starting position of P7, looking to challenge Benz Bunky. Early days there, Simone Puglisi as well, and Gergo Baldi. They were two people who had a brilliant start. Puglisi up to P9, Baldi up to P10. And that's both Zen Gaffinen twins now outside of the top 10, so a poor start for both of them. Looking back up at the front though, Jack Keithley, although he had a good launch, Rob, immediately under pressure. Julian Kunze is not going to let this one get away.
This was the cleanest start I've ever seen in a RaceRoom race. No one has gone off. And Keithley is still in the lead, but Kunze was very strong. But his tires up to temperature early on and he's attacking already.
But this is the sector where the Porsche seems to really have a nice advantage, and he was right underneath the rear wing. Was Kunze is up the inside there. Who is that up ahead? Looks to me like, Jaroslav Honzik actually defending off Nikitin Wisniewski, not the other way around. Further back, that was a slight wiggly moment from Gergo Baldi on exit of the Audi S. Manages to wrap it up. But Honzik, he's lost the position off the line already and seems to be under a lot of pressure from these fast starting Porsches. But at the end of lap 1, it is Keithley who leads from Kunze, Rekel, Hasse, Banki, Lerner, Honzik, Wisniewski, Puglisi and Baldi.
Oh, Vermont there taking the position against Baldi, who went wide on the exit of the final corner. Some of you motorsport fans might remember it for the big crash that Peter Dombrek had in this corner back in the DTM championship. Baldi this time was pretty lucky, got away with it, but lost the position to Vermont.
Alexander Vermont continues his improvement in form this season. Certainly been looking a much more competitive driver than the Vermont that we saw a year ago. Going on board now with our leader, Jack Keithley. And it certainly seems like he's been able to get a bit of a grip on the lead. Kunze still there, but becoming a more perennial figure in the rear-view mirrors of Jack Keithley.
You can see here in the second sector, that's where Keithley shines. That's where he's always finding a few extra tens compared to Kunze, and he's just gapping him a little bit. We'll see, of course, how this develops over the course of the race. Oh, Vermont has been off.
As soon as I say it.
Oh, and Baldi as well.
Oh, yeah, the two of them have gotten into contact, and it's at turn 9. Oh, dear. I do wonder whether Baldi was getting a little bit eager there. And so both of them cannon down the order to P22 and P23, and it looks like Courtois and Fredriksson have been, and Buron as well, have been in trouble, and Strife, and goodness me, that is not the best looking Audi I've seen in the world, sadly.
Best looking Audi on the grid.
Yes. Can't have any comparisons when there's no one to compare you to. Yeah, Buron sadly all the way down to P25. The only person further back, Carol Vega.
Stefanko now back up in the top 10.
Yeah, he's avoided all of that, hasn't he? And he's benefited massively. Still looking a bit off pace, but at least he's up there. One of the men who's already taken 2 podiums this season, of course. Joined now by Manuel Gaffinen. David Nage actually done pretty well. And Philip Matzik are one of our, if not our only debutante I forget now, but Philip Matting doing very nicely in P12.
Yes, he's doing a great job. Also very experienced by now, has taken part in a lot of RaceRoom live events before. Just took some time to get used to this. Oh, Zengafinen against Stefanko in the foreground, and Stefanko's giving a lot of room to Zengafinen.
And see, this is the nature of this right-hander and left-hander, because of course Stefanko now has the inside line. I know that he reached the corner beforehand, but you'll see undercut attempts, but you'll also see defensive moves there, and Stefanko using that corner complex to his advantage. David Norwich looking on the inside, maybe a little bit sneaky on Magnus Zengafinen, chooses not to press the issue. And so Zengafinen stays there for now. His twin not faring so well. You can actually see him in the blue Corvette further back in your picture, P16. They're remaining in P10 for now. And looking back up in the order, however, Julian Kunz has gotten interested again, Rob. Here I thought Jack Keithley was going to start to run away, but the German has other ideas. Look at this, sticking very nicely to the back.
Yes, and we see once again here in the first sector, that's where the Corvette is strong. He gets a good exit here, he will close right up on the straight with the slipstream and the extra power of the Corvette. It's just so difficult to make a clean overtake on Zandvoort.
Well, this is where the strategy comes into comes under the microscope even more so. Of course, strategy has been a big part of the RaceRoom GT Masters Esports Championship so far. We've seen undercuts, we've seen conservative middle-of-the-road pit stops, we've seen guys looking to go as far as they can on one set of tyres before doing a splash and dash with new tyres at the end. To be fair, there's been a pretty even split of these strategies working out. And I've got a strange feeling, Rob, that this race may very well be won in the pits.
Certainly a possibility. We've seen especially Martin Stefanko always going for a different type of strategy. Always pitting very early. On the other hand of the spectrum, we have Florian Hasse, the championship leader, who likes to pit as late as possible.
It's very much the top 9 that has really broken, or the top 8 I should say, that's really broken away. Martin Stefanko almost 5 seconds off the back of Nikitin Wisniewski, who you could just see there going into his picture, and Jack Keithley feeling the need to go defensive. Now, I'm not sure that Julian Kunze was actually even considering a move there, but just by virtue of Keithley going on the defense, Rob, he feels that he's under pressure in this moment.
Yeah, indeed, and to defend in the first corner, it's not so bad, because even if you have the inside line, you can still carry a lot of speed through the corner, because it's banked. You can still roll into the banking very nicely. But it's still interesting that Keithley feels the pressure by Kunze. Kunze's not really an aggressive driver as such, but I think if he has an opportunity, he will go for a move.
Well, we just think back to 2 weeks ago, to the Red Bull Ring, where he didn't have the clearest of opportunities against Andre Santos, did he? But at the same time, even with the half chances, he didn't go for it. He'd rather bank the points than risk an accident. And certainly up against someone like Jack Keithley, I'm not sure that he would ever consider that sort of thing. As further back, Florian Hasse is going to risk that thing. Late move into the LDS, and that is a brilliant move from Florian Hasse up onto the podium. Michael Rechel was caught napping.
Yes, and I think Rechel has not been going at the same pace as Kunze and Keithley in the beginning of the race. Not far off either, to be fair. Not quite the same pace, and maybe Hasse feels like he can close the gap here.
He's already taken 3 podiums this season, Florian Hasse. There is a reason why he's at the top of the championship. And he knows that if he wants to keep that #1 spot, well, he's going to have to overtake the man currently in first. Look at this, further back. Look at that guy. Further back in. They're going to crash into the pit wall if they're not careful, the Corvette. That was a Julian Zengafinen. And he's made the move stick as well. Great persistency through on Balint Benedek. I thought we were going to get a Schumacher Barrichello moment. Thankfully, Balint Benedek gave him the space, but sadly it was too much space. Oh! Round he goes! And who was that? That was Konrad Zarebiec, who was way too eager. And goodness me, Daniel Fredriksson is out of the race, and Balint Benedek is demoted down to P24, completely of his own, well, not of his own doing, sorry, but rather of someone else's doing.
I was unlucky, especially for Fredriksson, who quit the race after the accident, probably to get out of the way there. Yeah, Benedek, also well placed within the top 20 in the standings, drops far back here. And the battles continue. Puglisi against Matzik now. I think Puglisi dropped back a little bit in the Iron Force Porsche there, dropping now behind Matzik.
He had a great start, didn't he? Up into the top 9, but much like Gergo Bold, he found himself outside of the top 10 very quickly indeed. Looking to the outside of the Audi S, you're not going to find many moves around there, and you can see actually just how comfortable it is around that corner as opposed to the Corvettes. But sadly, once you're on the inside apex, there's not really too much that you can do to force a move through there. So Buglitzi will be remaining in P13 for now, as we approach the 50-minute marker to go. It's still Jack Keighley who leads from Kunter, and now Hasser P3, although Hasser over 2 seconds away from our leaders. Starting to become a 2-horse race.
Oh, Alexandre Vromor, he's on the move again, past Ibrahimi. Trying to recover Baldi, only P19 after the accident.
Yeah, certainly Vromont's just getting on, doing the work. A reminder to everyone that even if you just finish this race, you are still scoring points. There is a reason why first is 100. But that's just it, you have to finish. And so someone like Daniel Fredriksson, for example, who has retired from this race, he'll be getting nothing for his efforts. And so back up then to this second tier of the race then, shall we say. Martin Stefanko finds himself 6.5 seconds away from P8, and he's starting to cause a bit of a bottleneck as well. It's just not been Stefanko's weekend, has it?
No, certainly it has not been. Doesn't quite seem to have the pace. He is dropping a lot of time to Wisniewski, maybe also because he's battling with Zengaffinen here. Other than Gaffinen just goes past Vela in the same corner meanwhile.
Junior back up to P14, and he can see that train ahead of him. And to be fair, at the pace that Stefanko's going, I feel like he's got every ability to catch up to that. I am wondering whether Manuel... Well, considering where Manuel Zengaffinen qualified as well, showing the pace that he did, I can't help but feel that this is a hold-up move, and you can see there Stefanko feeling the need to go defensive into turn 1. You'll look at Zengaffinen trying to perform the undercut here, but much as Rob said earlier, once you get into the corner, it's difficult to try and force a move up the inside, because if you just keep it in the middle, there's not really much which way to go. And Zengaffinen's got to be careful here, because sniffing around is David Noj, who'll be quite happy to prey on any opportunity that comes his way. He's a bit of a trouble magnet, unfortunately, is David Noj. And so any good points, any top 10 position will be a delight for him, I'm sure.
Yes, it's more than he achieved so far in the season. Not quite the season that David Notch hoped for. Now he's in a strong position here in the race against Zengaffinen and Stefanko, and I think eventually Zengaffinen will find a way through on Stefanko. Just jumping a little bit forward because Moritz Löhner has caught Ben Spunky. They're very close now as well.
Yes, it's very much a question of when rather than if in that other battle, and it looks to me like it'll be a similar story here as well. Moritz Lerner, driving for Williams Esports, has dropped Jaroslav Honzik, has dropped his teammate Nikitin Wisniewski. And Ben Spunky, who didn't have the best of preparations for today, was very late to join the... I think he joined in qualifying, did he not?
Yeah,
not even in free practice.
Either in qualifying or just before qualifying. It was pretty late here.
But to be fair, a driver of Ben Spunky's experience, of course, reigning EWTCR champion, you'd expect even with little practice that he should be able to put on a good show. Further back here goes Lucas Buron, looks to be losing the position sadly to Vinny Oliveira, looks to the inside again, but Oliveira's through to P22.
Update from server 2, Johannes Weiss is leading once again in the BMW ahead of Adam Pinchas in the Mercedes. These two didn't make it in, and just getting the points in the second server with Marius 30 in P3 at the moment.
No surprise to hear that. There's all Lerner. Just having a little look. Nothing doing just yet. But he's keeping his options open at turn 8. Follows suit in turn 9. And I feel like Ben Spunky's just biding his time here at the moment. He knows that the Corvette's got an advantage on the straight. Oh, and you can see how much more comfortable he is there as further back. Who is this? This is Manuel Zengaffinen. Finally looking to make the move on Martin Stefanko. It was a question of when rather than if. And the Swiss driver is up into P9. The question now, Rob, is can he start to pull away? Can he start to reel in Nikodem Wisniewski ahead?
We will see, and we will also see what David Notch is going to do. So close to the top 10 now. And I think Stefanko is really struggling a bit at the moment.
By the time this move happened, Rob, they were almost 10 seconds away from Nikodem Wisniewski over the course of 15 minutes. That's awful pace when considering the standard that Stefanko has set so far. Speaking of good pace, though, what an impressive showing from Julian Kunze here. It's one thing to keep up with a driver that you know you're on an equal pegging with, you know, when you're up against a driver in the same car as you. Julian Kunze is keeping Jack Keithley very honest here indeed. I just wonder what's going through his head now in regards to strategy. Because he could try and perform the undercut, potentially. Try and catch Jack Keithley out by surprise. Or if he has confidence in his abilities, does he think that he can overtake him on track? In which case, let Jack Keithley do what he needs to do and stick by your own plan.
I don't think they will go into the pits at the same point. I think Kunze really has to try the undercut here. But it's not really clear to me if he's staying with Keithley because of the slipstream as well, or if he actually has a better pace than Keithley.
Does it matter, I would argue?
I mean, it matters when Kunze is pitting early, and then he has to do it on his own pace, you know.
Mm-hmm. But surely by pitting early, well, actually, yeah, I guess it's a question of whether Jack Keithley then has faith in his own abilities, which. Spoiler alert, he does.
Yes, Jack Keithley really has faith in his own abilities. I can confirm that.
Like, I'd imagine he would stay out, surely, if he knows he has the pace.
Yeah, I don't think we will see many early pit stops here, especially because tire wear is quite big on this track.
Yeah, you do want to use the most of your current set of tires, and you'll see actually on the timing tower on the left here, you'll see little red dots have suddenly appeared. That means that our pit lane window is now open. So it opens after the first 15 minutes of our race, but it closes before the final 15 minutes of the race. So drivers have half an hour to get their dealings done and to decide when to come in and make those mandatory pit stops. Of course, they have an option on how much they fuel up and whether they take 2 tires or 4 tires. Again, we've seen so many variations of strategies throughout the 4 rounds that we've seen so far. It's difficult to tell in terms of fuel amounts how close to the wire these guys are going to go, Rob, but certainly in terms of tyres around this circuit, it would be a surprise to see anybody going with a 2-tyre stop.
Yes, indeed. On this circuit, tire wear is probably the second highest in the whole calendar because we've got Sachsenring coming up afterwards. Sachsenring has an extreme stress on the tires on the right side. So that one will be even more extreme than this one here. But still. What's Lerner here? Great pace.
I agree.
And Michael Rechel, he's also getting caught by Wiesenmüller.
I'm wondering whether Lerner hasn't launched a move yet to try and work together with him to do just that, to catch Rachel. I mean, you look at the gaps as well. Florian Haas was 2.5 seconds away from the lead battle. Rachel is 3.5 seconds away from Hassa. And so the top 4, of course, you have the top 2, and then you have third that's quite split away. Fourth is quite split away. And so for Lerner and for Banky to have any chance of a podium here today, they kind of need to dispose of Rachel together and then work their way up to Hassa.
And I think if you're in the position of Lerner or Bunky, then it maybe might make sense to go for an earlier pit stop. Especially if you're Lerner right now.
Well, yeah. If I was Lerner right now, I'd be thinking, get it out the way maybe at the 35-minute mark. Further up the border. Once again, we're looking at... Oh, and here we go. Yeah, Lerner is looking to get it done, isn't he? He dinks right and then left to go all the way around the outside of turn 1. But sadly, for him at least, Ben's Bunky on the inside line has decent drive. But Lerner is most certainly looking. If they were in cooperation, Rob, that cooperation has ended.
Yes, Bunky closed the door very late. Lerner then had to go to the outside to try to make a move, but around the outside in the first corner at Zandvoort, that's difficult. It's possible in some cars, but it's really, really difficult. But he's faster than Bunky at the moment.
And you got to watch out as well for Jaroslav Honzik behind, who's not lost touch with these two. Yeah, Moritz Lerner looking a little bit more eager. Is he going to look up the inside of turn 9? No. I feel like he could have potentially forced the issue there, but he decided to save nose. And unfortunately, up to the Audi S, Ben Spunky's had a decent drive out of turn 9, so there'll be no move into here either. On board now with Jaroslav Honzik, looking ahead of this battle. He's just going to be rubbing his hands together, hoping that they both come into strife, Rob.
Yes, indeed. Solid performance by Honzik once again in this race. Not quite there. We have to jump to the lead because Keithley is defending hard again. And we've seen it quite often already. As the race progresses, the Corvettes just get a little bit stronger. We have to jump to Lerner because he's trying the same thing. There's the first car coming out of the pits. That's Courtois.
Very early pit stop indeed. And he comes out in P20. No. Yeah, he comes out in P23. My apologies. Look at this, Lerner looking around the outside of turn 3.
Oh, I think Matzik has been off. He's in the pits as well.
An early stop there from both Porsche and Corvette, so tyre wear seems pretty equal across the two. Lerner just looking a lot more comfortable at this stage of the race. Will he take a little dive into turn 8? Oh, he's looking for it now. There we go. The dive into turn 8. And he's up the inside. But look at that. Good traction on exit from Ben Spunky. He'll have the inside into turn 9, of which the attempted cutback from Lerner is unsuccessful. So a nice attempt, certainly. But now look who's joined. It is Jaroslav Honzik and Lerner. A flash of the lights. I'm not quite sure why. Jaroslav Honzik on the outside of the Audi S, going to try and look to the outside, is going to move his way onto the inside, but Lerner shuts the door quite abruptly and remains in P6. That was a whole domino effect that unfolded before our eyes, Rob. The end of it means that Ben Spunky has gained a few tenths or so on Moritz Lerner.
I think what Lerner was unhappy about is that Bunky took this corner, the left-hander, very, very slowly, and not allowing the undercut, and that almost meant that he lost the position to Honzik as a result.
He's just defending though, I'd say that much. And if he did slow down intentionally to back him up into Honzik, okay, it's a bit underhanded, but I'd argue that it's very smart as well, because now Lerner's got Honzik to worry about.
Yeah, some changes for position. I think Puglisi has entered the pit lane. Or it's this actually Zangaffenen. Yeah, both of them have entered the pit lane.
Yeah. They're both of them pitting from outside the top 10. Gergo Boldy pitting from outside the top 10 as well. So a lot of these guys further back choosing to pit now, maybe hoping to find some gains. Very much the Martin Stefanko way of thinking from the past couple of races. As Lerner looks on ahead to try and re-engage with Ben Spunky, we can take a little detailed look at Jaroslav Honzik, Rob. Definitely one of the favourites in the community.
Yes, because he always streams his races on his YouTube channel from his point of view. And when you watch him there, you don't think that he's in an official race. He's just talking with his audience, having some fun, and just driving perfectly at the same time. So always very entertaining. Maybe if you have the chance after the race, or if you have two screens, might be worth to look up his YouTube channel.
He's one of my favorite people in the world, one of the happiest people in sim racing, I like to call him. And it's always a treat to see him have his successes. Success, of course, something that Mr. Jack Keithley has had a lot of, and you can tell that he's putting all of that experience to good use, keeping Julian Kunze at bay for now. Julian Kunze, though, really good showing. That
I think
final
Lerner's
cherry
in
on
the
top,
pits.
though. Huh?
Sorry to interrupt you, but Lerner has gone into the pits.
He is, yes. And when did I say he was going to come in? My prognosticating skills have come to the fore once again. Moritz Lerner then comes in, and I think that's a smart decision, Rob.
Yes.
That is a smart decision. Get out of that battle. Try and take Ben Spunky in the pits rather than out on track.
Lots of drivers in the pits now. Romain and Diot also in the pits at the moment. See, Lerner's getting out of the pits now. Let's see if he has clean air. There's one car ahead of him.
Oliveira.
I don't think that is Oliveira, actually, because Oliveira has the same livery as Lerner. That must be someone who's a lap down. That's probably
Vega,
lucky for Lerner that it's either Courtois or Vega, and he's most likely going to let him through.
Not the easiest of tracks to backmark on, though, to be fair. I just hope... I'm pretty sure it's Vega, because Vega is some... I think he's the only one who's a lap down at this stage.
Yeah, I think Courtois is a lap down to the leaders now, because he came out of the pits when they just passed.
Oh, Kunze! Kunze leads!
Because Keithley's in the pits as well.
Interesting. Keithley bit the bullet first. Right.
Maybe he got the info from Lerner. You've got fairly clean track. You can pit now. And that's weird that Keithley is so early in the pits, because he prevents the undercut from Kunze.
Bunky and Rachel in as well, so Bunky responding to the pit stop from Moritz Lerner. And Julian Kunze is now out on his own, so he's got to try and make the overcut work.
We have to go on board here with Moritz Lerner to see where he slots back in and where the other drivers come out of the pits. Lots of drivers in the pits now. Zengafinen as well. Notch in the pits. Ibrahimi. What? Drive-through penalty for Jack Keithley. Speeding in the pit lane.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
And that's, I tell you what, that's even worse because he's come out 6 seconds behind Lucas Buron. And hold on, is that Ben Spunky? Up ahead of Moritz Lerner? No, it's Rachel. No, he's jumped Bunky. So Moritz Lerner, the undercut has well and truly worked. He's come out directly behind Michael Rachel. Ben Spunky has lost out here. But Jack Keithley, drama in the pits. A drive-through penalty, no doubt, for untapping that pit lane speed limiter too early. And that has most likely, Rob, in fact, we might as well go out and say it, he has just gifted the lead to Julian Kunze.
And that maybe shows under how much pressure Keithley was in this race by Kunze. That's a very uncharacteristic mistake by Keithley. I haven't seen that at all from him.
But look how much clean air he had ahead of him, Rob. He had 5 seconds or so. So Lucas Buron, there's no need to be that under pressure, especially if you're that confident in your own pace. And Kunze's in. Hassa in as well. So Jaroslav Honzik's going to go round to lead this race. Nikodem Wisniewski goes round again.
No,
but
Wisniewski in as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. But yeah, Kunze then is going to lead this race.
Let's see what Keithley does if he's coming back into the pits now.
He has 3 laps to serve it, correct?
Yeah, I think he does. You will see it on his screen.
He's just going to try and back up Kunze, I imagine. Let's see, where does Kunze come out on track? So Kunze does come out behind Jack Keithley.
Actually, it would have been the perfect strategy by Keithley with this pit stop.
Yep.
Let's see, Rechel here still.
Wisniewski.
Yeah, Wisniewski behind Bunky now, but ahead of Zengafinen.
Drive-through penalty.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that. So what's going on there with the Williams? With the Williams
Too
cars?
eager. Too eager. And so once again, Nikodem Wisniewski, so inconsistent this season. So much potential, so much of it unfulfilled rather. I say it time and time again, Rob. If you're going to be in a race where you're doing a pit stop, practice your pit stops. I mean, it's such a rookie error to make.
And it's also weird that the drama always comes in pairs for Williams. We've seen it at the first race at Oschersleben, all on the wrong strategy. Then the collision of Keithley and Wisniewski, and then Keithley and Lohner at Red Bull Ring. And now 2 drivers with the drive-through penalty. And actually at all the races where they didn't have trouble, they won.
Yeah. Honzik into the pits now. I imagine that Lucas Baron probably going to follow suit as well. Our last 2 drivers to come into the pits, and here comes Jack Keithley to serve his drive-through penalty. This is going to gift the lead then to Julian Kunze. Everyone has had their pit stop before the half-hour mark was expected. Where does Jack Keithley come out then? Kunze goes through, Hasse goes through. Next down the line will be Mikko Rekel. Lerner goes through, Banki goes through, and he joins the track just ahead of his teammate Nikodem Wisniewski. And Wisniewski, of course, remember, has a drive-through penalty himself. So he's got a decent gap back to Jaroslav Honzik, Rob. But Jack Keithley has been ejected out of the top 5.
And Honzik has lost a lot of time in the pit stop. He was much closer to Lerner and Banki. I don't even remember if he was behind or ahead of Wisniewski. Yeah, Lerner definitely benefited a lot from his early pit stop here.
Honzik will have the better tyres at the end of the race though, Rob. And so, keeping in mind total context, he remains in P7 overall from before the pit stops.
Oh, Lerner going for the same move again. And he tried against Banki, and against Rechel it works.
And Rechel doesn't even have a chance to answer into turn 9 so Moritz Lerner onto the podium now.
Timing has a little bit of an issue there. He's not that far down. He's actually around 4 seconds down compared to Hasse at the moment. Provisional podium here.
It's worked beautifully well for him, hasn't it? He not only jumped Banki in the pits, but he had enough pace on Rekel to make the overtake work. And now he's got 5 seconds to Florian Hasse. Or 4 seconds, I should say, to Florian Hasse. Florian Hasse has 5 seconds to the lead. And Julian Kunze, surely all he has to do now is keep it on the black stuff at a consistent rate. And he's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, it looks like he's faster than Hasse. Once again, Florian Hasse on his way to score a podium, but not a win. Yeah, great position for Julian Kunze and Hasse. Great position for the Euronics team. 1st, 2nd and 4th in this race. And Jack Keithley, we will see him in a battle now. We haven't seen him too often in a battle in this season. Only really at Red Bull Ring, and there he had the disadvantage with his car.
And let's keep in mind the championship standings as well, Rob. Of course, I realise that the online championship is more for pride than anything, especially within the top 10. But these results would see Florian Hasse, I think, hold on to his championship lead.
Yeah, definitely.
He'd certainly stay ahead of Keithley.
Yeah, we'll also stay ahead of Kunze. Good result for Lerner as well if it stays like this. But I think Keithley, from this position, has a very realistic chance to get up to 3rd.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got the pace, hasn't he? And he can see 3rd. Not that far away. But that said, he does have to get through 3 drivers to get there. And they are hardly the easiest of drivers to overtake. Bent Banki, Mikko Rekel, and of course his teammate Moritz Lerner. Or stablemate, I should say. Of course, it is a lone wolf championship. There's no teams championship here. If you are in a team, though, then you generally tend to work together on setup and all that jazz.
Oh, David Notch has been off. Such a good race from him so far, but once again, just a magnet for trouble in these races, unfortunately, down to 14th.
Looks to me like Gergo Baldi has confirmed himself out of the races. Nikodem Wisniewski then will serve his drive-through penalty. We'll get a proper look at the order as it is post-pit stops. And actually, that didn't work out too badly for Nikodem Wisniewski. He only lost 1 position. And so behind Keithley, it'll be Honzik, Manuel Zengaffinen, Wisniewski, and in P10, Philip Matzik has done a stand-up job holding off Martin Stefanko in P11.
Yes, and Matzik also has been early in the pits. I think he was the first one to pit, or the second one after Courtois.
I think he was the second one to pit, yeah.
Oh, and Baldi? I think Baldi is out.
Yes, I just said Baldi's out.
Completely missed that again.
Not a surprise, considering his race so far and the fact that he felt so off the pace. Just taking a look at outside the top 10 here, Julian Zangaffin and David Naj. Of course, the recovering David Naj, who dives up the inside of turn 8. He wasn't backing out of that one, was he? On the inside now of turn 9, surely going to complete the move, although Julian Zangaffinen's got good traction.
I think it's the other way around. I think it's Zangaffinen who's attacking against Romor.
No, you're right, yeah. Don't mind me. This commentator knows nothing. Julian Zangaffinen up into P12 then.
Oh, late dive from Romor.
Fair play to Zangaffinen, gives him the room and stays on the inside apex. He remains ahead.
That shows the experience of Zangaffinen there. That was the perfect response to this attack. Didn't close the apex and force the collision, and instead just gave him a little bit of room and still managed to hold his own line.
Brilliant work there from Julian Zangaffinen up to P12, albeit he's now 3.5 seconds away from Martin Stefanko, who's still behind Philip Matzik as we speak. It's a bit wide for Julian Zangaffinen there. Almost allows a little bit of a look in from Alexandra Vermont once again, but able to wrap that one up and remain in P12. Vermont clearly still eager. So, what to do if you're Jack Keithley? This P3 battle still close, but if there was anyone that you were going to put your money on from here to get P3, even with 3 cars ahead of him, Rob, you'd probably say Jack Keithley would be that one.
Yes, indeed, but it remains to be seen how well he can pass Bunky, because Bunky is strong at defending now. Bunky managed to hold on against Lerner, at least on track. Lerner just got past through the pit stop strategy. Let's see how aggressive Keithley will be in a battle. He is the most successful driver on this track with 2 victories in the 3rd place. And I think if the result stays like this, then Julian Kunz is gonna tie him for that.
Not necessarily just the most successful driver on Zandvoort. Jack Keithley, easily one of the most successful drivers in all esports competitions on RaceRoom Racing experience. And just in sim racing in general, I'd say, Rob, the amount of experience behind him is hugely impressive, especially when you consider how much of that time has been spent at the top of grids rather than the midfield.
Yes, he's also one of the, I would say, older drivers. He's not old at all, he's in his mid-20s, but he's older than a lot of his rivals here.
I mean, in the world of esports, mid-20s is one of the more... If you think about it in football terms, we'll go through that. If you think about it in football terms, he's like a footballer in early 30s. So we're not necessarily saying that the end of his career is immediately near. And certainly in terms of sim racing, I mean, you got sim racers up into their 40s, 50s. So plenty of career ahead for Jack Keithley. But esports is very much a young person's game. Just in terms of reaction speeds, just in terms of natural ability, and the fact that people are starting to grow up in the world of gaming, in the world of esports, just as a natural thing. I know that us two, we've kind of been on the bubble, I guess, in that we've been lucky enough to grow up as this world has been evolving, but it's going to be at a much bigger rate for the kids who are, or a much bigger stage than, you know, for the kids that are born today. And that means exciting stuff for the future, certainly is. It's going to be great seeing more and more talent breaking through. You just got to look at Rachel, for example, one of the youngest on the grid. I also think to Tim Yarshall, of course.
Yeah.
Great talent coming through. And it's a talent that's probably going to make Jack Keithley sweat over the next 5 years.
Yeah, also Lerner and Bunky, they're both still really young. Kunz is kind of the same age as Keithley, and then Honzik is the only one in his 30s.
He's the elder statesman.
Yeah, he's the elder statesman here in the top 10.
In his early 30s, I want to say.
Yeah, but we've seen drivers in the high 50s competing in RaceRoom competitions in the first server. I'll remember Dirk Knatz on the pole position at Spa in the Esports WTCC a couple of years back. Only reverse grid race, but it was still impressive how he managed to bring home the car in 10th place. So yeah, no age limit here, but Jack Keithley definitely one of the guys with more experience than pretty much everyone around him, with the exception of Honzik, who's behind him. But Honzik can't seem to follow the pace.
No. And honestly, as much as I make the comparison with footballers in their early 30s, in your early 30s in football, in a sport which is so physical on the entire body, you are going to tire out quicker. Age in sim racing, admittedly, it is still physical. It's hardly like your gamepad esports or quick reaction esports out there, but age is only a help in sim racing. It only gives you more experience. It's not something that's going to take away from your overall driving ability. And so Jack Keithley got all of that behind him to try and aid his ascension up into the podium once more. 20 minutes remain on the clock then as Lucas Braun, he's done quite well to recover to P19 actually, has Lucas Braun, putting Bernard Vella under a bit of pressure as well in P18. Yeah, not long to go now as we enter our final third of the race.
Yes, and probably once again, Buron could have scored more points if he had qualified for the second server instead of the first. This doesn't seem to have quite the same amount of luck in the races. Yeah, meanwhile, update from the second server, Marius 30 is now leading ahead of Pinches and Weiss.
So good to see the BMW and Mercedes doing so well down there, of course. I'm sure that those of you out there will be complaining about the balance patch. I guess a soon TM to be put on that. It'll get to you
that's
as soon
kind of
as
the
possible.
standard response in the
Yeah.
at RaceRoom. People who know the game for a while know this phrase oh so well. And Jack Keithley, he also wants to get past sooner rather than later against Bunky, but there's just no opportunity at the moment. Just jumping back real quick to Matzik, who's still ahead of Stefanko, who's still holding the top 10 position here.
Doing so well, isn't he? For a debutant in Server 1. Incredible work. Ooh. Don't want to speak too soon, no, that's a bit of a slip, and that's given Stefanko something to be eager about. He looks to the outside of turn 12, but there's not really too much that he can do through there. And through turn 13, all he can do is try and line up a move, and you can see here, he's directly in the slipstream. You can see Matzik going to the inside. This is where the Porsche suffers, Rob. This is where you'll get the most slipstream all track. And Stefanko breaks super late to go on the outside, but such is the nature of turn 1 that was close, but it still wasn't close enough.
And it's just this track here, Zandvoort, where it's extremely hard to overtake. We've seen passes. We've seen Julian Zengaffenen, for example, make a few passes in this race. I think Romont as well. But it's just a little bit more difficult here, because there's not a lot of space, and there's also gravel and grass runoff areas. Something we don't really see so often anymore in modern motorsports.
It's a classic.
Oh, just jumping to Keithley real quick.
He's real close, isn't he? He's real close. Will he go for the dive? Bunky defends. He says, you're not doing that. I know what you're about. And yeah, he defended so well off Moritz Lerner for so many laps, did Bunky. He remains in the middle of the road. He is not budging. Keithley looking every which way to find a definite move. And Bunky is staying deliberately ambiguous as to where he moves in the road.
And Bunky can also take the final corner a little bit faster than Keithley. I think he can take flat out. But that protects him here in the braking zone for the first corner. Even though Keithley is a bit better on the brakes.
And as much experience as Keithley has, this is going to be frustrating him. He's one of those drivers who really does care about this stuff a lot. He is someone who puts his heart out on his sleeve. And
Stefanko has been caught by Zengaffenen.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, Julian Zengaffenen, who's been quietly moving his way up the order since the pit stop phase. And Matzik's work has paid off beautifully. It might be a double-edged sword if Zengaffenen gets past Stefanko. But at least Stefanko now has something else to worry about apart from trying to get past Matzik.
Yes, I think he's buying himself some time here. As long as Zengaffenen attacks Stefanko, there won't be a move. Oh, Keithley tried the move, and he's going for the cutback once again. Oh, that was the corner where Bunky was already under pressure by Lerner. I think Keithley's going to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, Bunky was a little bit slippery on exit there as well. Definitively going to the outside here. And Jack Keithley's forced to go to the outside. There's no real way through. And Ben's Bunky slow on exit, and this is so smart. He doesn't have to get on the power early. He's not panicking. He's just taking each corner at his own speed, and Keithley has nowhere to go, Rob. Brilliant driving.
Here you can see it once again, the Corvette just a bit faster in the final corner, a little bit more downforce. So Bunky can pull the gap that he needs for this braking zone here, because otherwise, if Keithley had a better exit out of this corner, then he would lose the position here.
Of course, it compromises Bunky's effort in trying to catch up to Michael Reckel, but honestly, at this point, I think that P5 would be a good end result for Ben's Bunky. And if he's able to keep Jack Keithley behind, then that's an even better result. Still, these three remain line astern. Matzik from Stefanko, from Zengaffinen. But behind, here comes Alexandra Vermont, the Oscaro driver, looking to join the party.
Zengaffinen is very wild there on the curb. He needs to watch out to keep his car on the road. And Vermont, he's also a driver who's fairly aggressive in the battles. We've seen him there on the straight early on in the race. Let's see if he will wait as long as the other guys do.
Less than 15 minutes to go here in round 5 of the RDSE
Matzik
GT
is struggling.
Master. And yeah, Matzik is very much struggling through that final corner. Oh my goodness, Alexandre Vermont, you were saying he was aggressive. Looking on the outside of turn 7 there. I think just to keep his momentum. And Stefanko, see, Matzik left the door open, Rob. That is the sort of opportunity that Stefanko would usually jump at. Today, he's just not looking on it. Oh, Vermont in the background. Look at that. Look at Vermont in the background on Julian Zengaffinen. Trying to force his way up the inside of the LDS. No doing.
It was around the outside. Vermont actually made the move stick.
Same car. I was completely bamboozled. And so is Julian Zengaffinen from attack to defense. And a failed defense to that. Vermont is through.
Just checking on Keithley here. Couldn't make the move once again on the straight. Let's go back to Stefanko here.
The way you look, there's good battles. Stefanko will have been given a bit of a reprieve now. I think Vermont really spoils Zengaffenen's party. There goes Stefanko down the inside. Contact between the two. And fair play to Matzik. He's remained strong on the outside. He'll have to sweep around here. Turn 2. Stefanko remaining on the inside. Through into turn 3 we go. Stefanko still on the outside. Still trying to keep it stuck in.
Oh, and Keithley has been off.
There. Keithley is round, by the way, further up the road. There's been a problem for him. I think he must have gone wide. Honzik is through, but we've got to go back to this battle. Yes! Stefanko has finally made his way through on a stout defense from Philip Matzik. Vermont remains ahead of Zengaffinen, all kicking off here in the final 15 minutes at Zandvoort.
Some crazy moves going on.
Oh.
Two blue Corvettes side by side. Can't really tell which one is who. Vermont still keeping the position there. And Stefanko finally in the top 10. Took him a long time.
Gotta wonder what happened to Keithley there. Was that him being a little bit overzealous on a move? Was it Banky being too hard in his defense? Of course, the end result is that Keithley has only lost another position. And I'd say that that's his chance of a podium gone, Rob, surely.
Yeah, with only 12 minutes to go, it looks very unlikely now. This man here, Julian Kunze, completely dominant though in this race after Keithley's penalty.
And that's just it, isn't it? Jack Keithley, as much as you could argue either way for whether it was Banky or Keithley's fault, we won't know really until any sort of incident report is submitted. But Jack Keithley put himself in that position, Rob. He got the drive-through penalty because of his own mistake.
Yeah, then he also had bad luck that he probably ended up behind the guy who defends the hardest out of everyone on the grid, which is Banky today. Rowan Hasse in second place. Looks like another second place, but it also looks like he's going to extend his championship lead. Moritz Löhner, when the results stay like this, he should take over the second place in the championship standings. Well, actually he won't. Kunze will be second, but Löhner will be in third.
So it's an excellent day up at the front. It's an excellent day for Germany overall, isn't it? The top 4 locked out by Germans here.
Yes, and Michael Reckel, credits to him, he's just getting better and better. Now he has to defend against Banky, of course, for the rest of the race, but yeah, it's pretty impressive by him. And Romain has now caught Matzik.
You can see Stefanko starting to run away. That's the first time that he's looked to have pace over an opponent behind him all race long. And Vermont, that was a little bit too eager. To be fair, it scared Matzik so much so that he defended deep into the Audi S. He remains ahead for now. But look at David Norge as well. David Norge in P14's caught up to this train, so I think that Matzik is starting to dramatically fall off the pace.
Yes, Matzik has to lift quite a lot here in the final corner.
Yeah.
We saw earlier on that Bunky doesn't have to lift at all, so probably the old tires showing now at the moment. Ooh, and there's Romain. Yeah, and that's Romain for you. He doesn't wait, he just goes for the move, and Matzik comes back.
No fear. Up the inside of turn 2, he's going to hold the inside line. That's a brilliant cutback from Philip Matzik. Excellent work.
Oh, around the outside, Romain now. He's trying everything, and Zengaffinen is trying to get past Romain now. Side-by-side contact, Zengaffinen just slots in front of Notch.
Looks like Keithy. Oh, Honzik. Honzik's lost a position.
Yeah, Honzik lost 2 positions. Also lost a place to Zengaffinen, so maybe there was contact with Keithley. Dropped back quite a bit there.
Now that we can see on Honzik's stream. And Romont
losing the place.
Position.
Oh, there's contact!
And
Zengaffinen has tapped Matzik there.
And Matzik, the innocent victim, finally loses all those positions, but not of his own doing. So sad to see.
Romain also loses the place to Notch now. Hard to tell who is who, but now Zengaffinen, Notch, Romain. That's the order of the blue cars. Oh! Aggressive move there from Matzik against Romain. That was not the car that hit him, though.
It's hard to tell since they all look the same. Which one is it? Just have a go at all of them. Why not?
Yeah, Honzik also a big loser here. It's the battle with Jack Keithley dropped down to 8th. We didn't see what happened, but you can probably see it on the Jardia stream.
Certainly faster than Manuel Zengaffinen behind, but he's only got 8.5 minutes. To try and make a move stick. Ben's Bunky still behind Mikko Rekel, by the way, and they've got to be careful because Jack Keithley is catching at a rate of knots, only 1.5 seconds behind.
Yes. I think we just have a short opportunity to also show the drivers that we haven't shown in this race so far. That's a Rebiak in P15, good recovery after he's been involved in an incident early on. Puglisi, that's not really his usual pace here, only P16. Having maybe a few problems in this race. Then Lucas Buron in the Audi, beat up Audi. Good recovery drive to 17th, ahead of Bernard Vella, who's consistently around these sorts of positions for the whole season, always in Server 1, always around that area. Oliveira in 19th, the Brazilian, and Samir Ibrahimi not with his best race. But actually still a pretty solid showing, P20. Courtois 21st, as he's letting, I think he's letting someone through there, might be Kunze. Then Guillaume Theot in 22nd, and the last of the runners, Karel Vega in 23rd.
Still going to get points though, that's the important bit, and I noticed that Zengaffinen has moved down to P13. So Noj and Vermont have both gone past Julian Zengaffinen there, who looks to be struggling.
Yes, lots of position changes here. Notch now, all of a sudden back in P11, back in the position where he was earlier on in the race, before he made that mistake. He could have easily challenged Stefanko without a mistake.
Yeah, because Stefanko's all on his own. He's 5 seconds ahead of Noj. 12 seconds behind Nikolai Wisniewski.
This battle is really close, but we've also got another battle that's fairly close. Bunky versus Rechel, and if they fight, Keithley's right there.
Been a great drive from Mikko Rekel so far.
Just got a confirmation in the chat. Jardia went off on his own, so no fault to Keithley there.
I can't help but wonder whether it was a mistake from Keithley as well. I guess we'll wait and see, won't we? And Bunky has been unable to overtake Mikko Rekel for a good few laps now, and that inability to overtake might come back to bite him because his old friend Jack Keithley back on the scene, and if there was contact between these two, then there is a bit of history to be decided.
Yes, indeed. On board now with Michael Rechel. We're not on board so often with Michael Rechel in this season, because usually he finds a quiet place within the top 10 in these races and then just drives it home. Romain, meanwhile, has passed Notch for 11th. We have to stay here with the battle because it's the last 6 minutes now. And Rechel, he has to defend hard against 2 champions. Ben Spunky, Esports WTCR champion. And well, Jack Keithley, he's won the online championship of the Mercedes competition twice. Didn't quite make it in the final. He's the guy with the most wins on RaceRoom in general.
There's a very much Linkin Park effect with Jack Keithley. He's come so far, but in the end it didn't even matter. So strong in online and through a combination of unluckiness, overzealousness, all those Jack Keithley factors that give him this all or nothing approach. He's just not come out on top.
I think he has a fairly good chance to come out on top in this battle here with Bunky. Definitely quicker. And I think it will be even harder for Bunky to defend now with the worn tires.
Defense, isn't he? Look at that. His attention has instantly changed, hasn't he? You can see that in the movements of his car. He doesn't care about overtaking Rechel anymore. It's all about defending off Jack Keithley.
Yes, Keithley with a strong pace in this race, but actually not the fastest driver in this race. A couple of Corvettes were faster. Honzix had a faster lap time. But the fastest drivers in this race in general were Kunze, Manuel Zengaffen and Florian Hasse, based on pure lap time. So Florian Hasse actually with the fastest lap out of all the drivers, 35.6.
He's been in a lot of clean air though, as well as Florian Hasse, so...
Yeah, he's now 10 seconds behind Kunze, so Kunze is just flying at the front of the field. He's not letting go at all.
I am curious if Jack Keithley hadn't had that penalty, if Kunze would have been able to catch up again and potentially have the opportunity to overtake. Because we know that Jack Keithley would have been ahead after the pit stop phase. That much we are certain of. But could Kunze have actually challenged Keithley for a win? We will never know that much. All we know now is that
it looks like we will have a 4th different winner in 5 races with Julian Kunze in this race if nothing goes wrong. Let's see how far Keithley can go back up here. We will lose the championship positions also to Löhner and Hasse. That looks very likely if he's not getting a move on right now.
Oh, he's going for it down the inside of turn 8. And there's not much that Ben Spunky can do to defend on the apex, but what he can do is very smart. And what he does do is he carries the extra speed around the outside so that he's on the inside of turn 9 and remains ahead in P5.
Keithley was going for the cutback. He angled his car. He kind of slided through the corner. Tried to go for the cutback, but Bunky too smart in this corner. He knows what's coming.
There's been some excellent defensive nouts on show from Ben Spunky. He's just taking every apex at his own speed. Like he's not slowing so much as to be noticeable, but he's slowing enough so that Jack Keithley doesn't have an opportunity to retaliate afterwards. Not only that, but Ben Spunky is still clearly the better placed car through that final corner, so that Jack Keithley does pick up a bit of slipstream, but doesn't pick up an opportunity to attack into turn 1.
I think Keithley's running out of time.
2 laps left, I reckon.
He has to try it somewhere, and I think he can only really try it in the middle sector.
It's where he looks strongest. It's where he's been strongest all day, to be fair. His middle sector was simply untouchable by any of the Corvettes. Look at that, you can tell that he wants to take that corner in particular much quicker than he's able to, with Ben Spunky ahead. This is where he tried last time. Will he try again? Yes, he does! He dives once again to the inside of turn 8, and this time he's muscled Banky out the way. There's going to be no response from him this time. That was definitive. That was Jack Keithley in a nutshell, and he's up to P5.
Yes, clean, but it was absolutely clear there's nothing that Bunky can do. If he closes the door, Keithley's already there. And I think he will try the same thing against Michael Rechel, but he's running a little bit out of time. So let's see where Julian Kunze is. Kunze crosses the line now, so this is the last lap.
And it's been such a good performance from him. No mistakes, and ultimately no mistakes is what's going to win him this race. Florian Hasse can very much say the same. Moritz Lerner, of course, currently occupying P3. what a pit stop strategy he had. And now for Jack Keithley, I don't think he's done, Rob. I think he looks at Mika Rekkel and he sees a target that he can try and achieve in the next lap or so.
Yes, indeed. Good back marking there from the Iron Force car. It's everyone through at once. Haven't seen that from some other drivers early on in the season. Keithley is all over the back of Rechel, and this is the biggest challenge that Rechel had to face yet in these battles. Lost out against Löhner, but Keithley, he has got a pretty much the highest aggression level in these battles that you can think of, while still being fair.
Do or die. I wouldn't be surprised to see him move up into turn 8 once again, certainly. I feel like Rechel was slower than Bunky as well. You can see Jack Keithley all over the back of him. Through turn 7 then. And into turn 8, will Rechel choose to defend? Look at that, he does choose a defensive line. He doesn't do what Bunky does. He has no faith in his ability to keep the outside line. And Jack Keithley all over the place trying to look for a way through on Mika Rechel, so far so that he goes to the outside curbing. But we've got to look back up to the front because round the final corner he comes to take his first win of the season. To disrupt the Keithley pole to win situation is Julian Kunze.
Oh, there's been an accident.
And there has
Keithley's
been an
off.
accident. It's Keithley round. And Ben Spunky with a slowdown penalty as well. So drama at the end here. Kunze first, Haase second. Lerner's going to come home third. With Mika Rechel fourth. Whether he was involved in an accident or not, I do not know. But Bunky's going to come home, I think, P5. Just about, it looks like. Manuels and Gaffinen P6 with Jaroslav Honzik P7, Jack Keithley P8 in the end. What happened there? Wisniewski 9th and Stefanko rounds out the top 10.
Just went away in the wrong moment. Kunze just crossed the line in the wrong moment. We wanted to show that, of course. Then Keithley and Bunky probably come into contact there. Keithley dropping back to 8th position, so all of the progress lost for him.
Did he go for a move on Rechel into turn 10? That's the question.
Either way, winner of the race, very deserved, very good performance. Julian Kunze, Euronics Gaming, takes his first win of the season.
Double win this weekend as well. Was one in the 3-motion challenge, does incredibly well. Florian Hasse picking up his 4th podium of the season. Moritz Lerner picking up his 2nd podium of the season.
You can see the results. Fastest lap for Florian Hasse, who remains in championship lead. Kunze now 2nd in the championship. Lerner 3rd, and Keithley losing a lot of ground once again. I think he will also lose a position to Bunky, but we will see that in the aftermath of this race. Shout out to Philip Matzik for a strong debut race in Server 1 P14. That was a good performance. Notch up to 12th, but couldn't quite catch Romain in the end. As you can see, the other finishers here of the race of Server 1.
Well, that escalated quickly. It was an interesting first half of the race, don't get me wrong, but everything changed after the pit stop phase, didn't it?
Yes, and I think it was mainly because of the drive-through penalties for the Williams guys. Lerner, of course, didn't pick up a penalty. He finished 2nd, so he showed what was possible for Williams in this race. Was possible for Porsche. But yeah, both Keithley and Wisniewski, and then Keithley, ever since that, it's been kind of in the middle of the action.
And so, where to next then? We have 2 more rounds of the online season, and they're going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, of course. And we are heading back to Germany for the final couple of rounds. We're heading first to the Saxon Ring for round 6, and then to the Hockenheim Ring for the final round of the online season before our real final, our live final at the Tuning World Bodensee, Rob. And I think you said as much. Zandvoort was hard on the tyres. Saxon Ring, though, is going to be yet another challenging circuit for these guys in that category.
Yes, it's probably the most difficult circuit on the whole calendar. So we will see a lot of action there. Also quite hard to overtake, but very easy to make a mistake. Very easy to just get a little bit onto the grass or the gravel, and then you're pretty much on the gravel for 6 corners in a row. So always a big challenge. We will see how this plays out. Qualifier is still open. If you want to qualify, we don't only have the server 1, we also have server 2, which is streamed at RRVGT. And then we also have server 3 and 4, so you can also make it in if you're not so experienced in sim racing. You want to try out your competitive side on RaceRoom Racing Experience, of course. Head over to game.raceroom.com/competitions, and there you will find the GT Masters competition.
This stuff, right. We hope to see as many of you there next week as possible. It's been so fascinating, and we've only got 2 more rounds left of this online season. Let's see who makes it into the top 20, shall we? Join us then on the 31st of March for round 6 at the Saxon Ring. But from us here, he's been Robert Wiesenmüller. I've been James Kirk. And from us, it is a very warm goodbye.